A Samsung PS51D550. Problem with it is it's dead. There is no standby light, no relays clicking, no audio, picture, nothing. The unit is plugged in as I speak now. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to put it on its face and have a look at the power supply for starters, see if I have any voltages coming out of the power supply. I'm just going to plug in the unit now and check the voltages from the power supply. Unit is plugged in, heard no relays clicking. Is the VS voltage, and I picked that up from the first two pins of this connector here on the power supply. We'll start with the black lead, and the voltage reading on the meter is 0 volts. And let's have a look. Over here then on the board behind this capacitor we have our VA voltage. Nothing there. Now the VS voltage should be around 207 volts and the VA should be 58 volts, and where you get these voltages from is on the label on the screen. They're always wrote on the screen. There's your VS and your VA there together. Every screen is different, so when you buy a new power supply you have to adjust it to give it these outputs. I'm now going to check the 5 volt supply to this control logic board that's just on this side here of the power supply, and there should be 5 volts to it, and where I check that is on this connector here. And we got no 5 volt there. Have we got our 5 volts going to our main board? And first pin on this connector here, and that's 0. Looking like we have either a short on the secondary side of the power supply, or maybe a problem with the primary side. I'm going to first check for shorts, and the way I do that is I just plug it out first. You want to blow your meter, put on the ohms, or you can put on diode, whichever you want, whichever you feel most comfortable with. Try the ohms, and I'm just going to try my 5 volt supply, see if there's any shorts on that. That's reading more than 200 ohms. And I'm just going to now check my VA voltage over here. There's a test point here, and that's reading over 2000 ohms. And right over here then I'm going to just check my VS voltage, and that's over 2000 ohms as well, so there's not a short on it. What I'm going to do now is take out this power supply and check for any shorts on the primary side. Check that fuse. There is a fuse there. We could just check him first, see is he open circuit. Just put him on diode test, and if it's okay you should hear a buzz like that. Okay, he's all okay. And we could also check for any shorts then across these two reservoir capacitors, but first of all I've got to make sure there's no charge stored on them. Okay, no charge. I've just put that onto my voltmeter and it shows 0 volts. Put on diode test, go across that, it might beep for a minute. Over 2000, sorry, that's not reading a short. I'll take out this power supply and I'll do some further checks. I'm going to do a few voltage checks now on this power supply. I have it out and I have my mains lead plugged into the board, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it in now to mains. I'm using an isolation transformer here as well, just for safety purposes. First thing I'm going to check is my 5V supply. Always 5V for the microprocessor on the main board, and it also, I think, feeds the control logic board. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it would feed the control the microprocessor. I'm going to use this point here for ground, and the second pin up here should be 5V, and as you can see, if we can get a bit closer a shot, try to keep the meter in. Second pin up is the always 5V, and that is missing, and there's other 5V supplies here as well, and they are missing. Also then we should have supplies coming out of these FETs. We have nothing coming out, it's not switched on, but we have a 5V here going into it, and that's a higher voltage there. 5V there on that one. Okay, what it's looking like is for some reason or other these FETs are not being switched on. I don't have a schematic for this board, and I've been searching for one and I can't find one. I'm going to do a few more checks on it and see what I can find out on it. I can see a little chip IC here. It's a programmable chip. See, has that got a supply to it? I'm just going to get some data on that. I've done a visual inspection of the area surrounding this IC. It's reference number ICQ851, and I think it's an MCV148. It's very hard to read it off the top of the IC. And I found on this IC pin 13 was never soldered in on this IC, and by just doing a little bit of pressure on this IC, I found my voltage on this FET. I don't have a circuit reference number for that because it doesn't seem to be on the board, so I can't give you a circuit reference for that. That 5V out of that was coming and going when I put a bit of pressure on it. So I done a little bit of a solder up around this area. It's basically, it was a production fault. It was there all the time. It took a couple of years for the contact area of the pin and pad of the PCB to build up resistance to cause a problem now. I'm going to just plug it in, and I'm going to read some voltages on that. Sure I got it in. That's it plugged in, and I'm just going. You won't be able to see the meter, but you should have 5V there at that particular point, and then on this pin here we should have 5V. 5.28 actually what I'm getting on my meter, and this here, this other pin here, we have 12.5V on it. 12.5V. So obviously that's the turn on the pin for that FET. That actually switches it on. Okay, we have here pin 1 of this, which would be the supply of the IC Q851. It's reading 4.63 volts, and it gets its supply across a diode. There's a diode here, goes from here to here. This end of the diode reads 4. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry, there's 2 diodes. This top diode here, 4.6, and we got 5.28 volts on that end of the diode. Now if I put my meter across the diode, it reads 0.6 volts, which is about the correct voltage drop for a diode. So we're not losing voltage across that diode. What I have to do now is check the power supply on off signal, see if I got all the other supplies. I have my power supply set up now with a link going to ground. I found the ground point here on this capacitor here, CN855, connected to the ground side of that, the negative side, and then I soldered it here to pin 1 of connector CN801, and that is my PS on pin. What I'm going to do now is plug it in, and you should hear relay clicking. My power supply over here now should be running, this end of it here. My high voltage side for the screen, for the VS and the VA, that won't be turned on because there's a separate pin VS on for that, but I would imagine it's working. Now let's do a few checks on these FETs. I got 5.28 on the output of that FET. I got 15.29 volts on the output of that FET. And we have another one over here just around the link. See you in the shot. And we have 5.28 on that as well. So all my voltages are switching on the lower voltage end of the power supply. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this board in the TV and give it a try, see will everything go up working. Power supply is in the unit now. I'm going to plug it in and see what happens. Relay clicked, that's a good sign. So is this light on the control logic PCB flashing. That's telling me I got supplies, and I'm just going to have a look around the front, but I think, as you'll see from the side there of the reflection on the components drawers there, that there is a picture. After repairing the power supply, it's important that you check the voltages out of the power supply to make sure they match up with this plate. There is a plate here on the back, and as you can see, the VS, VA and VSC, you should always check to make sure they all match up. But you must heat the unit up. I'd leave it running for at least an hour to stay heat up all the components, and then adjust the voltages. They're marked on the actual boards. The VS and the VA are over here on the power supply. There's one, there's your VS, and then down here you got your VA adjustment. That's what you adjust for your VA and VS. And then on the YPCB here, we should have a VSC adjustment as well. Our V-scan, that's it there. And you'll see a test point right beside it. I'll plug the unit in now and we'll see what kind of a picture we have. Samsung logo. And there we go. A little bit more complicated fault than you would normally have on that power supply. The biggest problem I would normally have with that power supply is there's two FETs, QS801S and QS802S. They normally go short circuit, and you do a kit. You get a kit from a company in the UK, and you replace those components in it, and that normally gets the power supply back up and working. However, I was expecting the same with this one when I opened it up, and to find that they were gone, or the Y sus being short circuit. I've had that common enough on these plasmas, but when I took out the board, I found there was no 5-volt supply. The always 5-volt supply was missing. Also, the when I tried to take it out of standby using the PS on shorting out the ground, it got the relay to click all right, but no 5-volt from them FETs. And then further investigation, of course, as I pointed out, I found one pin not soldered on that controller IC on the secondary side of the power supply. I hope that's of some help to someone out there, and thanks for watching.